Welcome in for the Blue White Players Show, presented by our friends at Ciocca Dealerships. I'm Aeneas Hawkins, joined as always by my friend Goon Conlon. Goon, how we living today, brother?
Good. I'm no longer legendary. I'm just a friend now. I like that better.
Come on, man.
We do much better that way. All good. Not all good in the in the area or in the world here for us. But
yeah, I mean, do we rip the Band-Aid off and get right into what was this past Saturday? Do we get right into it, Goon, or do we delay this a little longer?
Oh, no. We got to get into it. I mean, it's just frustrating, right?
It is. You know, let me set a scene here, Goon.
Sure.
Let me paint the picture for those of you who may have been living under a rock. Obviously, Penn State faced off against Michigan this weekend, a top 10 battle, a battle that was kind of painted with the narrative of if Penn State wins this game, the season is just fine. They still have a shot at the playoffs, and all dreams, hopes are still alive. Didn't get the job done Saturday. Close loss, maybe not as close as the score indicated. What did you see? Obviously, and we'll get into this too, Mike Yurcich, the offensive coordinator, being relieved of his duties after the performance Saturday. Mm-hmm. So let's start there with the offensive side of the football. What is it that you saw that was so disappointing?
I mean, has it been a year-long thing? Has it been – I mean, we've been worried about Aller all year. You know, when is he going to snap out of it? We thought that going into Indiana again, the way he played against Indiana was like, okay, and then the way he played against Indiana. And then Maryland, we were like, okay, we're going in there hot. And I don't know if guys are making his life easier on the outside.
Yeah. And
I don't want to put it on the wide receivers, put it on the O-line, put it on the running backs, put it on James, put it on Yurcich. There's a lot to go around. You know, a lot of frustration is the word I'm looking for.
And let me give you the defensive side of it. The thing that's so frustrating to me, and I would be, you know, we've talked to a lot of the guys on the defensive side of the football, and they'll never say this, but I'm sure to some extent it has to be frustrating to have a defense that could be argued to say that is the best in the country, and you still aren't in positions to beat these teams that you have been so close to beating for years. Yeah. And I think on the offensive side of the ball, there's a lot of blame to go around. And it's a little bit of every spot that you look at. Everybody has to improve and get better, because how many more elite defenses does it take for you to run through before you finally make that playoff push in the same spot as last year?
Yep. And Mike, the year before, that's again. I go back to the F word, the frustrating word, and that is it. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, you know, the offense all year long, you know, looking in the offseason and in preparation for this year, we talked about how explosive the run game was going to be. Drew Aller got a lot of love. Drew is a good football player and is doing some good things for a young quarterback, but it was clear to me on Saturday that there was no opportunity for him to get into any type of rhythm. The receivers weren't doing enough to help him. His offensive line wasn't doing enough. And obviously Mike Yurcich wasn't doing enough when they made the decision to move on from him. Jaywan Sider and Ty Howell step up.
Yep.
What do you think about the move? What do you think about the timing of the move? And do you think this affects the offense for the last 3 games of the season?
I am worried with the last 2 games, no doubt about it. Absolutely worried. I'm worried for this week. It's going to be a very dead stadium. You thought Indiana was dead.
Right. And let's say this, Rutgers is a much better team than Indiana this year.
Rutgers will come in here and do bad things to us. They want to come in here and do bad things to us, and they have the ability to do bad things to us. Again, frustrating because, I mean, I sit there and a lot of people I know have always been like, well, this is the year I want to see what we do against the Big Two. This is the year because we have had all these great recruiting classes. We're loaded around. We have a 5-star quarterback. People were always mad about your boy Clifford being the quarterback. Why can't they get Aller in there? I've been holding this question.
Please.
What would have been different Saturday with Sean?
Well,
it's not a he said, she said, or like, you know, make up scenario, but like,
well, let's talk about it.
Could he have changed that game?
The one aspect that Sean maybe brings to the table that Drew doesn't is just the mobility factor. And I thought it against Ohio State, where maybe Drew's receivers this year were having trouble with Ohio State secondary. They couldn't beat man coverage. The one thing Sean Clifford brings to the table is the fact that he'll roll out of the pocket and he'll extend plays. You know, I'm not going to get into comparing the two, but obviously last year They're not the same quarterback at all. But last year, everybody wanted Sean to get out of town really quickly because we thought that the issues were Sean Clifford issues, and that was the easiest person to blame for any issues that Penn State football had. And I think what we see now with Mike Yurcich getting fired, with Drew Aller, who's as talented as anybody, we still all agree, struggling. I mean, how many yards did he have against Michigan? 70 yards in a top 10 matchup. To me, there are deeper issues than just the quarterback when we put 70 yards on film. Drew Aller is capable of much, much more. And I think the move to fire Mike Yurcich is reflective of that. You have to have an offensive coordinator who is going to develop Drew Aller, because what we don't want to happen is have a guy who people at one time were talking about being a top 5 pick not get any better over the course of 2, 3, 4 years. You can't explain that away.
Could you go with the round peg in a square hole type of thing? And that's Yurcich is much better with a mobile quarterback. I mean, are we really saying like Sean Clifford is not Michael Vick back here? I mean,
no,
he can definitely do an RPO.
No.
I mean, does Aller not have that ability?
I mean, Drew Aller he's so talented that he can do the RPO system. He could do some of those things, but Drew Aller is a pro-style quarterback. He's going to be at his best when he can sit back in that pocket and show off that big arm he has. From 20 yards and in, he's deadly accurate. He has a very good arm, and he can push the ball downfield, and that's where he and Sean are a little bit different. But Sean, again, for so long had no offensive line. Yeah. So the mobility that Sean was showing off, people attributed to the offensive line being bad and not necessarily Sean Clifford's athleticism, but he actually is a great athlete too.
Now we have an O-line who only gave up 1 sack this past week, ran for 175 yards. I mean, that's not a bad. That's a hell of a defense we played again this week.
Correct.
Okay, well, but then we don't have the receivers then.
Right.
Best thing I saw on social media, amongst the other 8 billion things they could not stand.
Many things.
Yeah, and that was there's a reason why we were offering every wide receiver in the transfer portal. So we knew going in that was going to be a problem. Yeah,
it was no secret. And, Keandre Lambert-Smith has done a lot of good things this year. I think the struggle is we have had guys like Jahan Dotson for so long who are pure number 1 receivers who are going to always beat man coverage. And it's not that Dre isn't a really good receiver, because I still think he is, but he is not a one-man band. And you got to have other guys with them who are going to present threats to a defense, or else you won't be able to move the ball consistently. But we got to talk about another thing.
Tight end wise. I mean, what are we going to the tight ends?
And that's where we talk.
Where you were going?
Let's talk about the tight ends. Theo Johnson and Tyler Warren are still leading the country. I mean, in tight end touchdowns, they're great players themselves. But even then, it seems like, okay, we have a receiver problem. Why aren't we doing more to get those guys going early and often? I didn't see Tyler Warren get targeted until the end of the football game. And he's going to go play on Sundays. There is no reason he should be such a small part of the offense.
He's the unsung hero of this team, by the way. He's the guy who does a little bit of everything.
Everything at a high level, too. So, you look at those things, you look at those question marks we had. I'm sure Franklin had the same question marks when he was evaluating the offense, which is a part of the reason Mike Yurcich isn't there. But aside from that, as the head coach, there are some questionable decisions that happen on Saturday, and we can avoid the questions and we can act like they're not relevant, but going for 2 at the beginning of the game, even that first drive where Penn State's offense drives down the field, they get down to the 3-yard line. Why on second down are we throwing fade balls to a receiver room who is unproven and hasn't done that all year? You have a guy they call Fat Man in the backfield, Katron Allen. I mean, did we learn nothing from the Marshawn Lynch situation in the Super Bowl? Yeah. And then you decide to kick the field goal there. You punt the ball on 4th and inches from the 50-yard line. To me, there were too many opportunities where James Franklin could have said, you know what? It's time for us to go out here.
You got big calls.
And it's that simple. And I thought the same thing about the Ohio State game. So there are things everywhere that need corrected, Goon.
I mean, if James, 2-point play going in with 11 seconds to go in the half. Okay, they went into that game saying, we're going for 2 on our first touchdown, no matter what.
Yep.
Okay, and that's fine going in there. But read the room.
Right.
You had 6 plays from the 3-yard line in the first and second quarter.
Yep.
None of them worked.
You
kicked the field goal. So, I mean, if you would you have not have used the 2-point play that you thought you were going to have to score the 2 points when you scored your first touchdown?
That's another.
Use it then.
Okay,
so then that's the time. So the mindset of, we have to go for 2 because we told these guys we're going to go for 2. But you got to read the room and realize there's 11 seconds and a half or 21 seconds to go in a half. All we did was give Michigan that momentum at halftime. Yep. Like, they stopped that 2-point play. It should have been 14-10, kicked off the second half, and let's go.
Yeah.
Instead, they stop a 2-point play. They get the momentum back. We just scored a touchdown.
And that's the
play should have been going absolutely bonkers for halftime.
100%.
Getting ready for the second half, and now we're sitting there going, why the hell did we go for 2?
No doubt about it.
Why did we do that? Yeah. Now you're forced again each time after that to do it.
And now
And
you're back against the wall.
The
The rest
last
of the game.
one I will never understand being down 9 points. I mean,
you kick a field goal there, you give
the extra point.
Yep, kick the extra point.
Yep.
You're still alive.
Yeah, you're still alive. But if you don't get it, then
game's over.
Use 2 scores and the game is over.
Game is
you're
over.
Done.
No doubt about it. I mean, Michigan didn't throw the ball in the second half.
They threw it one time, and I will say I did not like the defensive pass interference because I thought it was everything but that.
Yeah, that was a terrible call. That was the one that I'll say was a very questionable call. And, Kalen King is a guy who has had his ups and downs this year, especially considering that, they were deeming him a first-round draft pick heading into the season. But right there, I mean, he was on top of that guy. Great coverage. Sure they throw the flag on him. That, to me, was kind of silly.
Hey, he has just as much as opportunity to catch that ball as a wide receiver, that tight end did.
Exactly. And at the end of the play, getting choke slammed away from the football.
Like the other guy did it. Yeah. And then they called. I mean, I literally, the flag came out. And I said, all right, back him up.
Yep.
Punt it. Let's go.
Us. Yeah. No.
Now, and then I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to call it on us right now. And boom, they're in the 50-yard line.
And I'll say this, the defense, Michigan put up some points. Obviously, they're going to have their rushing yards. That Blake Corum kid, you got to remember, was just a Heisman candidate before the knee injury. He's a great ball player. J.J. McCarthy going into the game, that defense knew he was capable of hurting them with their legs. I thought for the most part they played at a high level. They started the game really well. Michigan did some things to adjust and get J.J. McCarthy out of the pocket to keep him away from some of those dominant ends. I mean, Adisa Isaac, denied Dennis Sutton. On a positive note, that kid is not going to get outside of the top 10 as long as he stays healthy. That kid is special. Chop Robinson coming back. They did some good things, but we brought it up last week. When your defense is on the field for that long against elite football programs, it's going to catch up. It's not feasible for them to be out there for that long. And ultimately, we saw the results of that.
All right.
You got anything? We did.
Yeah, we're nice and frustrated again. It's all over again right now.
Once again, all frustrated.
Shots here to calm down. Here.
Yeah, right.
What's going on? So where do we go from here?
Well,
I mean, see, my thing is this: it's like I played on a team that had unbelievably great offense.
Yep.
But my first couple of years, we didn't. We had our defense. We were a defensive first team. So the teams that we have right now, or the teams my first 3 years at Penn State, strong defense, great special teams. Don't screw up on offense.
Yep.
But there was definitely locker room times where the defensive guys were like, dude, give us 3 first downs. Yeah. Give us some time to rest here. So that's what I'm worried about in the locker room is that kind of like split. Like team leadership has got to really step up here right now. There can't be a divide with offense and defense because there is a divide.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Defensive players sit there and say, we won that freaking game.
Yeah, and they have a reason to feel that way.
We played well enough to beat Ohio State. We played well enough to beat Michigan, and we beat neither of them.
And let me say this. I've been on Penn State football teams where you lose the 2 big ones, which obviously we've been doing for a long time now. And then, follow me, and then guys don't – they are not locked in anymore. They're not as focused as they were. People start getting irritated. Everybody had goals of a national championship and Big Ten championships. That's off the table. So you talk about leadership. The Rose Bowl year last year, that was what was special about them. Yep. They weren't going to stop playing because they lost those 2 games. They lifted the standard. They end the season on a positive note. Looking at this Rutgers team, looking at what Greg Schiano has built over there, the man Kirk Ciocca back in town as the offensive coordinator. He's going to be fired up. And I look at this Rutgers team, they're better than they've been in quite some time in my book. So if guys aren't locked in, it could be
coming in here.
No doubt about it. Go. So, it's going to be important to see how the leadership steps up. I've been a part of those teams where you lose the 2 big ones, then you lose 2 or 3 more that you shouldn't lose. And the next thing you know, you're playing in the Tax Slayer Bowl. So I think let's not make bad things worse here. Go out there.
That game either.
What'd you say?
We didn't play in that game either. We were there, but we didn't play it. I mean, it was just like, that's the fear.
Yeah.
That is the fear right now of where we're going to be in a month from now, 6 weeks from now. And that is a scary thought because you do not want that because that bleeds into the next season.
It bleeds, no doubt about it.
It bleeds into the transfer portal. Aller came here because of Yurcich.
Yep.
That was his guy.
So my question is, I watched the press conference today with Coach Franklin. They say that Drew Aller is not going to be a part of that hiring process, but I would guarantee you, I would bet the house that they are going to be very much including him on who they bring in. They're going to be very thoughtful about it because the reality now in 2023, I'm not saying I think Drew would do this, but it's 2023. NIL is a real thing. His development has reason to be questioned right now with throwing 70 yards in the top 10 matchup. They need to make sure they bring in the right guy and they keep Drew happy and they help him develop. Drew wants to be a Penn State guy. I know it. I know he bleeds blue and white, but you got to put him in a situation where he's going to develop and win too. And if you don't do that, then some questions start arising, if you ask me.
I'm 100% with you on that one, and that's what scares the heck out of me right now. The whole aspect, everything you just said. I mean, this is a 92 scenario for me, for all the people out there who watch who are on their dial-up internet right now. That is, 92. There's a lot of guys who just quit and decided, you know what, I'm worried about the NFL. Sort of like your 2020 team.
2020, yep.
They were just like, okay, well, this season's over. It's pointless. Why are we even here?
Outback Bowl.
Let's just go through the motions out here.
Yep.
And that does nothing but leave bad taste in people's mouths.
Yep.
And, I mean, we're talking about the NIL stuff, and, we have to worry about that. And that is that people are going to say, like, wow, what are we doing here? Why are we giving this money? Why do they want more money from me?
Right.
If this is the product that's going to go out there on the field year in and year out.
And let's get into that side of it a little bit.
There is a whole different side of it that I have no idea. You lived it a little bit.
Yeah, I lived the NIL space a little bit. I was saying, though, from the fans' perspective, I get on Twitter after the game. People are like, hey, we're pouring all this money into NIL. We're doing this and we're doing that. Coach Franklin, people are upset with all these things. How much longer can you ask such a dedicated fan base to keep being so dedicated? And I think everybody in the room is starting to feel some of that pressure.
Absolutely.
The staff included, the players included, and everybody wants to turn this thing around. But it can be even more hard, even more difficult to do such when people start getting divisive like that. So it's a curious situation.
I think we're going to see a lot of it this weekend, and that's going to be a lot of angry fans who aren't going to be there, who may not show up on Saturday. I mean, I'm worried. It's senior day, and I constantly freaking hate that senior day is always around the last weekend, which is Thanksgiving
time,
or the weekend before, when our students go home Friday afternoon.
Yep.
1 o'clock, 2 o'clock is your last class. You can go home.
Yep.
You got 8 days at home.
Yeah.
Or you can stay here another day or two and then go to a football game, have a great time watching last week's performance. I mean, do they stay?
It's a great question.
I know our fans will be there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's fans here tonight. They will all be there.
Yep.
Absolutely, and they're excited to be there. But I'm worried about the players continuing to buy in.
Yeah. I guess my question will be, with all the potential draft picks on this team, it'll be interesting to see how they handle a bowl game that is not a Rose Bowl potentially or a playoff game.
You might go out there with 7 starters.
Yeah. I mean, I take you back to the Outback Bowl. Our entire defense was comprised of backups that day. I mean, it was a sad case. So I'm hoping, the culture is better now than it was back then. And I think that's through the hard work of that Rose Bowl team. And even this team, although they lost 2 games, we're all frustrated. The culture is better. And I hope it's reflective of that to end this season. And they can find a way to finish strong. Looking ahead to next year, there's still a ton of talent on this team.
Sure.
And guys are going to be a year older.
You still got to keep it, though.
No doubt.
Our fans got to realize that, these kids are watching to see how the fans are going to react. I really do. I really feel as if they're going to feel like if 80,000 people show up and it's good weather,
mm-hmm.
I think the guys get frustrated and say, man, damn.
Well, that's very real. The players will act like they're not paying attention to the heartbeat of the fan base, how things are going.
How many guys complain about the fans booing?
No doubt.
Knowing full well, I mean, I don't. If you get booed as a player on the field, I know it wasn't. They know it wasn't geared towards them,
right?
Especially a defensive player,
right? Yeah,
if they hear booing and they really think that they're being booed because of defensive effort and this and that. No,
right?
I think there was the decisions with winning that game. It was the last 5 years talking about we need to get to be elite. What was it? 2017?
It was 2018. I remember that day. Yeah.
We need to be elite. We need to be elite and this and that. We got to get through Michigan and Ohio State, and we haven't even done it this decade.
No, we have not. It's frustrating stuff, Goon. I guess my thing is when the players, from the players' perspective, when the booing happens, they're aware that they're not being specifically targeted. The only specifically targeted player I've seen get booed was Sean Burt Clifford, and he got through and he went and won a Rose Bowl.
That's part of the. That's a quarterback, though.
That's QB. You get it. That's whatever. He got through it. He was fine. But my point is, when they hear Coach Franklin getting booed, what can happen is, and what I think people are seeing happen when guys start getting on Twitter and they start pointing out getting booed, blah, blah, blah. They feel like when Franklin gets booed, they're getting booed. They're so bought into this program at this point, which they should be.
They are. Yeah.
That they take it personally as well. You saw the video of my guy Vega going back at the guys in the student section who were going at Coach Franklin. It's because they care that deeply. This isn't just a game. This isn't just something that people are doing on Saturdays casually. This is very serious to those young guys. This is all they know.
I hope that Vega knows, and I sure as hell hope James Franklin knows that that's a passionate person booing them.
Oh, I'm sure.
They
no doubt about it.
Into it too.
No
they
doubt
really
about it.
Bought into everything he has said.
No doubt about
and
it.
This and that, and you're waiting for this moment to break through. And it just seems it's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
I feel insane coming on the show and telling people that this is the year that Penn State beats Ohio State and Michigan year after year. Everybody involved feels that way. It's frustration all around, Goon. We got to get to something positive here. Looking ahead to Rutgers.
Yeah.
Penn State comes locked in. You still have a chance to go play in the New Year's Six Bowl potentially.
We got to get through this week. I'm not worried about Sparty. I mean, that's just that's what it is. I mean, I'm worried about this game right now because Rutgers can and will come in here and blow your doors off.
No doubt about it.
And they will, because again, I've used this over and over again. Anytime we play Maryland and anytime we play Rutgers, there are kids who wanted to go here.
Yep. And
they can sit there and say, "Oh, I want the Rutgers. I want to go to Rutgers."
It's not true. Jersey, it's a lie. It's a lie.
This and that. It's a lie. If you got an offer from Penn State,
they were going to Penn State.
From Rutgers, you're not going to Piscataway. I'm sorry. So there are angry guys that said, "You know what? I'm not good enough to play for them. I can't wait to beat their doors in this week."
Yeah.
And we are susceptible right now.
This is the time, again, guys coming off of a emotional low of losing a big-time game like that. It's not going to be as easy to keep young players locked in against a team that is very good and capable of winning, but not Michigan, and they know they're not Michigan. How do you get guys fired up and to keep pushing when they're not playing for the playoffs anymore? They're not playing for a Big Ten championship anymore. It can be tough. And this is where Coach Franklin, if he's a wise man, he has to find ways to keep guys locked in and juiced up because this is very much going to dictate how you lead into next season. Mm-hmm. And I think realistically, we may be getting to more crucial times now where you are really on the clock and you better go beat one of these big teams because it's getting tougher and tougher to continue to explain it.
My personal opinion is that Manny needs to go in there and say, F this, it's on us, boys.
Yeah.
Make that like us first them mentality. And, is it Cedar or Cider?
Cider.
He goes by Cider.
My guy, Coach Cider.
He goes by Cider. So Coach Cider and Coach Al, they take over the offense.
Yeah.
They can interject a lot of positivity and a lot of like fun and like, hey, let's go. We're going to do that this week, type of thing. So we can go out there. I mean, you don't want to see a man lose his job in Mike Jersey.
No.
Sorry. But he lost his job, and it was like sort of like one of those guys had to fall on a sword.
Yep.
And he took one for the team because that will inspire the rest of this offense, in my opinion. I really do. I really feel like that.
Yeah.
And then Ty and Cider can go out and do that this week. They're a new voice, a new face. They're the ones holding the offensive coordinator meetings, talking to the players. And then they're going to run the ball.
Oh, they're going to run the ball.
Former offensive lineman and a running back is your offensive coordinator.
They're going to run the ball, and Theo Johnson and Tyler Warren are somewhere in a room high-fiving right now because they're getting the ball too.
I agree. We could change up the mentality of this team for just these two games.
Yeah, and Ty Howell and Jaywan Sider are two of the favorites amongst the players on that staff. Those are two guys that are going to have that offense juiced up. They're going to be ready to play for them. They will do anything to help those guys succeed, and I know they have a lot of belief in those guys. So, if there is some silver lining here, if there is a positive, it's that Jaywan Sider and Ty Howell are getting an opportunity. And they care deeply about Penn State, too. Those two guys will ride for them. So we're going to wrap this thing up, go to break. Stay tuned. We've got some very special guests in the House on the Blue White Player Show. We'll be right back.
Ciocca Toyota of Williamsport invites you to stop in today or check us out online. We have the smart path to your next Toyota, like the all-new Crown, BZ4X, the all-new Grand Highlander, Corolla Cross Hybrids, Sequoias, and more. Over 100 new Toyotas here and on the way. Don't make a $1,000 mistake. Choose Ciocca Toyota of Williamsport and see the Ciocca dealership's difference. Buy or reserve yours today and see for yourself why Ciocca Toyota is the only stop you need for your next new car. Ciocca Toyota, it just feels right.
Old Dominion. No Bad Vibes Tour. Friday, December 1st. Bryce Jordan Center. With special guest Chase Rice and Kylie Morgan. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Old Dominion, live in concert. Brought to you by Messina Touring Group.
It's frustrating When people intervene on you, but they have problems of their own. It's like when someone sends you a text, but the text comes from their email address. I hate this. Your name at iCloud, they FaceTime you from their email address? Are you calling on a child's iPad?
Emmy award-winning comedian John Mulaney brings his new tour, John Mulaney in Concert, Bryce Jordan Center, December 3rd. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com.
WWE returns to Penn State's Bryce Jordan Center with the WWE Live Holiday Tour. Sunday night, December 10th, you'll see World Heavyweight Champion Seth freakin' Rollins, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes.
May the best man win.
WWE Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley, Bobby Lashley, Becky Lynch, and more. Tickets start at $20. They make great holiday gifts. Get yours now at Ticketmaster.
It's Jeff Dunham on his all-new tour, still not canceled.
Yes, I make a living talking to myself, which means some forms of mental illness actually pay off. Is it bad that I unplugged my cousin's life support to charge my phone? Oh, shut the hell up.
Friday, March 22nd, Bryce Jordan Center. Tickets on sale now, only at JeffDunham.com. Don't miss them.
Silence! I kill you!
Jeff Dunham on his all-new tour, still not canceled.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
Welcome back to the Blue White Players Show. I'm Aeneas Hawkins. He is Goon Conlon. We are joined by a very special guest. Head basketball coach Mike Rhoades is in the house. Coach, how are you doing today,
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It is an honor to have you here. We have been following along closely with this basketball season. We talked off the air about my guy, Miles Dredd, helping you guys out, doing some color commentary stuff as well. Season's rolling, man. How are you feeling with the start of it?
It's been a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. Of course, when you win games, that makes it even better. But 2-0 with a new team, new coaching staff, all of that, it's been a lot of fun. We got a long way to go to where we want to get to, but a good start, good group of guys. I've had a blast. I've had a blast so far.
That's the biggest thing, Mike, is what has changed. I mean, you went from a Division III school to VCU, correct? Is that the
yes?
You went from Randolph-Macon to Division I school, replacing a pretty good coach in Ciocca. So you go there. What has changed? What was that? 10 years ago? How long were you down there?
So I was there 2009 to 14. Then went to Rice for 3 years, and then I was at VCU since 17.
What has changed with this transfer portal and the NIL? In going to a new school now, because it just seems to me like with Shrewsbury last year when Pat took over, 2011, 2012, 2010 when he got here, Pat Chambers. It was like they had to build it from the base, and it's a little bit easier right now with the transfer portal going out and going and getting players. And I think that Shrewsbury did a hell of a job with it. You did a hell of a job with all the guys that were on Shrew's team last year. How many did you bring back?
10. Well, three guys returned. At one point, I had three players, and I think a total of like 42 points returning.
Is that a sign of the times, or was that a normal thing, or just like wow?
Well, when there's a coaching change, there's going to be a lot of upheaval, as I call it.
Everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
Okay.
And guys that already transferred, they can't transfer a second time. Well, we didn't have any of those guys, so. The biggest thing about it is there's always going to be change in college athletics. The intensity of this change with the transfer portal and the NIL and some other legislation, some of it out of our control, you just can't panic. You just got, all right, if you want to coach in today's world in college athletics, you're going to have to deal with all this. And my biggest thing is be as educated as you can about it. And then how could you use it for your program when you take over? Now we can go, instead of getting 8 high school kids in the spring, maybe not good enough for this level, and a couple junior college kids, you can go out and get transfers that are eligible right away. And that's what we did. We got a couple of grad transfers. So because I still believe in development, I still believe in getting a high school kid, and he's really good now. But man, 2 years from now, with the way we can get him in the weight room, the way we can develop him on the court, I love that development part of it. But now you can also go go get some dudes, as we say.
Yeah. So the development thing, how much is that in high end college basketball?
Not as much now as
they're just going out
because
fishing right now, right?
you can go, and I hate to say it, but some places can go and with the NIL can pay for a player and they're ready to go, and there's quick fixes.
Right.
So look, we were fortunate that this year we were able to go out and get some of these transfers. 2 of them came with us from VCU, and some other guys we recruited out of high school we had relationships with. But the scheme of it for me is that let's get guys that fit Penn State and fit our style of play. And then can we develop them a year or 2 years from now? Everybody's saying, man, why didn't we recruit them? That's sort of been going to be our philosophy going forward.
You talk about development, and obviously that's always going to be important. But one thing that I think is just as important, regardless of the sport you're playing, is culture. You're in your first year here. You're bringing in a bunch of new guys. How have you gone about instilling a new culture?
Yeah, well, that's everything to me. That's everything. Then make it a big family. I became a head coach at 25. My wife was 24. We were engaged, and she said, if we're going to do this for the rest of our lives, let's make it just bigger than the gym. And we made it a family, starting at Randolph-Macon, everywhere we've been. And we want it to be bigger than basketball. Because of basketball, it brings us all together. But there's so many cool things we can do together and watch these guys develop into not just great players, but great students, people ready for the real world, great husbands, great fathers, men of faith. I think that stuff's really important. That's our culture. Playing really, really hard, being so competitive, being mentally tough. Going on the road to a place like Indiana and Purdue and finding a way for Penn State to win, that's got to be our culture. Making no excuses. That's the fun of it. It doesn't happen overnight, but every day you sort of double knot your shoes and go to work and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, how do Richmond kids enjoy halushki, pierogies, and kielbasa?
They do like pierogies. They do like pierogies. The hot bolognas. They didn't have any boilo yet. That's good. I'm glad we're staying away from boilo until a big win. But it's been really neat to watch. Ace Baldwin grew up in Baltimore, and then he was in Richmond, and then he comes up here, and on an official visit was the spring football game weekend, and the weather was beautiful that Friday before the rain, and we go to the hub, and everybody's outside on the lawn.
Yep.
And he's like, Coach, this is like a movie. And right then I knew, oh man, we got a good shot of getting this guy. And
we got him.
Yep. And then Nick Kern is from St. Louis. So St. Louis and Richmond, he comes up here, and he couldn't believe all the mountains and all the green, and it was really cool. And it's what it's all about.
Yeah,
experiences and stretching yourself, getting yourself out of your comfort zone. And those guys have loved it here.
I want to ask you about a place that I know is near and dear to your heart. I live with a guy named Tyler Elzen, who is also from Schuylkill County.
North Schuylkill,
baby. Just as he would say, I know how much it means to him. He raves about it. How cool is it to be at Penn State, being a Schuylkill County guy?
I can't even describe it. I mean, I grew up, my father was a state senator, so he had a lot of work up here. So I remember being a little kid, and he would drop us off on campus, say, be back here at 4:00. And my brother and I snuck in the rec, trying to find different things to do on campus and goof around and all that. I came up here for football games. I remember I was 6 or 7 years old for my first Penn State football game. And many a times after that, seeing games in Rec Hall, my dad would bring us up. Wrestling matches up here. My brother was a wrestler, all of that stuff. And then, I came to Bruce Parkhill's basketball camps. I came up here. I played for Coach Flannery at Lebanon Valley. He was great friends with Coach Parkhill. I worked camp here in the summer.
Yep.
And so I knew people. I knew everybody. I knew Penn State basketball, always followed it. In my wildest dreams, a kid from Schuylkill County being the head coach at Penn State, I wake up in the morning, I pinch myself all the time, like, this is crazy. And I would have done it for free, but they're paying me. I'm not going to say no.
Don't
quiet about that. Yeah.
Don't say that. I got Pat Kraft on the phone right now.
now.
So who called you, Pat, or did you apply?
No, I had no intention of leaving VCU. Yep. I loved it there. It's where my kids were born. I was there 24 years. We had our life there. And honestly, my son is a freshman football player at Colgate. My daughter's a senior in high school at St. Catherine's in Richmond. There's no way I was leaving if anyone called my daughter's senior year. And when all this went down, I talked to Pat. I had some great talks with him. The one evening we were on the phone for about 3 hours, and it wasn't it wasn't a sell job. He was talking about what his belief is and how to build a program. And man, a lot of it just aligned. And I knew the alignment of our president and our athletic director and the rest of his team. And I was like, this might be too good to be true. And my daughter, pretty much, I sat down with my family, and my daughter said, Dad, you've given us my whole life. You've given my two brothers and I all of this. We have this awesome, cool life. She's like, I'm going to be fine. She's like, I'm going to have a great senior year here. I'll be fine. And then I'll get to State College after that. Right. Then a couple of months later, Coach Missy is looking for a player on the lacrosse team, and Porter's getting recruited by a bunch of schools, and she offers Porter, and my daughter's going to be a freshman lacrosse player here next year.
How awesome is that?
Brother,
Yes. She signed
Works out well.
She signed on Wednesday. So
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, my little guy will be at State College next year, ninth grade. So worked out great.
That's
perfect.
Great, man.
That's destiny. Real quick, before we get to more serious topics, you brought up basketball camps. And I was with a guy this weekend who told me specifically to ask you what type of basketball player he was. And there's this guy named Christian Hackenberg. I don't know if you know him.
Oh, I know Hack really well.
Now,
so,
he had me convinced.
His dad probably.
Hack's dad was 3 years older than me. His mom was a year older than me. They both went to Marian Catholic, which is the rival to Monte So Marian Catholic had a great football program. We used to smoke them in basketball all the time.
Okay, well, I let him know
that wasn't even close.
He tried to convince me he had a terrific jump shot.
I will tell you this. So I was at Randolph-Macon and running camps at Randolph-Macon, and Hack's dad calls me and says, hey, can I bring my boys over the camps and overnight camp for the week? I said, sure. So Hack shows up, the boys show up, and he's big like he is now. He was that big as a 9-year-old. I had to move him up like 3 age groups, and he was still killing everybody. And but they came to camp for like 3 straight summers and all that. That's awesome. He's got a lot of Schuylkill County blood in him, and I got to see his dad this weekend here and all that. But that Hack was a good basketball player. Don't let anyone fool you.
All right,
baseball too. He never gets. I mean, the fact that he was at Fort Union. That's where they say he's from, Fort Union, Virginia. It was like, I don't know. He's got a lot more coal region in him than anything else.
Yeah. He definitely had it. He was a very good basketball player. Okay. He could shoot it. Couldn't keep the ball in front of him all the time, but he could shoot it. And he could go get rebounds. But he definitely was both of and his younger brothers were really good athletes as well.
Okay. Soccer players here, right?
Yep. One baseball, one soccer. Jeez. Yep.
I want to ask you, year one again, you're in the BJC, that environment in there, seeing how the students have come out and supported you guys. How cool has that been?
It's been super. The students have been great. We sold out student tickets in 2 hours. There's a lot of people, a lot of students around here looking for more tickets. After Friday, we had about 10,000 people at the game Friday, and there were a lot of students that I ran into at the football game on Saturday saying, Coach, we don't have any tickets. How can we get tickets? And that's what you want early in the year, and let's get it going. I keep telling all these student groups I keep meeting with and kids on the street, on the sidewalks, is bring a couple friends with you. Every game, bring 2 or 3 more friends that haven't been at the game, and it turns into your experience in your college career. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna play this exciting style. We want the students to stand behind us and sweat with us the whole time. That's the fun of it. But Friday night was a great crowd. It was really cool.
And you got Crispin running the offense.
Yes,
correct. There's another guy who has never met a shot he didn't like.
Yeah, but those are the offensive guys you want, right? Without a doubt. So Jamal Brunt, our associate head coach who played for me at Randolph-Macon, has been around. He's our defensive coordinator. I like to keep one guy in charge of different phases of the game. Joe is running our offense, and he and I see the game very similar offensively, where we want to play fast and
the game well.
Play
with point guards.
Play with pace and give guys the green light to go be players. Biggest thing for me is I want our players to play to their instincts. I don't want them to be robots. And Joe and I believe that the same way. And there's a scheme how we do things, and we got to be organized. But in the end, we want our guys to have great freedom out in the court. The green light, as we like to say it, and play to their instincts.
I want to ask you about one guy specifically that I'm really excited to get to see play. I got the chance to meet him. He just seemed like an outstanding young dude. Puff Johnson, who we'll be seeing more of here in the future. What can fans expect from him when he gets back on the court?
Just a hard rocking dude. He plays super hard. He as when you meet him, you feel this joy. Yep. He plays basketball like that. I wish more of our guys and more people in basketball play that way. He loves being in the gym. He loves being on a team, and he's a talented player. He can shoot the 3 at 6'8", but he's a wrecking ball too. He wants to, he wants to hit people around the basket, and he'd probably be a good D end if he gained a couple pounds, because he's not afraid to hit people and go after people, and that's what we need. We need that mentality for sure. But he's a super kid to be around, and I think he's going to be a great spokesperson for Penn State athletics for a long time.
So a lot of my guys that play basketball here are sort of thick now, or thick.
Aren't we all?
They always say,
Aren't we all?
They always say, yeah, I played football. Yeah, I played football. And then we had a hitting practice, and then I became the best basketball player.
yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of those cats out there,
exactly.
man.
I had the inverse of that real quick. We're running out of time here. I thought I was a basketball player. I got to high school. There was another kid in my class by the name of Jackson Hayes. You may have heard of him. Ended up being a lottery pick. And we went to tryouts the same day.
I recruited him.
You recruited Jackson.
To VCU, then he blew up in the summer. Yep. Played for Ciocca.
Grew a foot and a half, right?
Yep.
So Jackson dunked on me my sophomore year at tryouts, and that was it. I got cut, didn't make the team.
Don't feel so bad. He dunked on a lot of people in the NBA the last 2 years.
I was the first of many. You're good. You're good. Yeah. We were just laughing about it last night. Small world that you recruited him at VCU.
Yep.
So we're going to bring your man on here, Pat Flannery, here when we get done here with you. What has he meant bringing him in here? I mean, there's a guy I know when I was a little kid. So backstory is Pat was recruiting my older brother to Drexel, William & Mary, one of those. So he knows my mom and knew my mom and dad back in the day, and with a lot of mutual friends and stuff like that. And Coach Rhoades comes up to me in the coach's first cancer, and he says, "Was that so and so's wedding with your parents?" And he goes, "It was one of the funniest days of my life." And I was like, "That's great to hear, this and that." So he says, "I was so happy to hear that Pat's coming back." So we're going to get him on here. But what does that mean to you? That is your head coach, your mentor?
Look, I'm 51. If coach told me to run through that wall,
still,
without a doubt, that's my guy. And not only did we win a lot of games together, but I want to be where I'm at right now without the guidance I had from him. Not just when I played for him, but many years after. And now he's such a great friend, but he's still my mentor and the guy you don't want to let down. And for him now to be on our team, and he's going to help us guide our program and build it in so many different ways, and get his expertise and his knowledge is super. I want him to be around our guys and our staff and help us move this forward in so many different ways.
You want the guys around him too, because he is such a vast knowledge and history.
Yes,
it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean he's won a lot of games, but I've always said one of coach's greatest gifts is he can get somebody to go somewhere where they can't get themselves. And to this day, he's still doing that. And now we have him on our team. And the last time he and I were on blue and white, we wore blue and white together.
Absolutely.
We won a national championship in '94. So
carried you off the court like you were Jimmy Chitwood.
He didn't carry me off the court. So
carried you home from the restaurant that night.
Yes, we did have. One thing we did at Lebanon Valley was we had a lot of fun too. So we're going to continue to do that. But coach is, he's family, and our players know that, and he's going to bring a lot of great experience to us and knowledge. And in the world of the NIL, as you know this, it's not going to own our program. We're going to do things the right way. The NIL is going to be a piece that we use to help our program and move our young people forward and support them, and allow them to use that to make brand themselves. But coach is going to lead the way in that in so many different avenues. I think it's just going to be a win-win for sure. So, and we're sitting in the office today talking basketball. We haven't done that in a long time. So that's the fun of it too for me.
Yeah. And then, we're sitting there talking about the NIL. It's amazing. It started with your selling an autograph or a couple T-shirts, and now it's to where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Grown, man. Do you think it will change?
Yes, I do.
Going forward, I think it needs to be a little more
controlled. Yeah, I think there'll be guidelines with it. I think there'll be caps on it. When I say caps, I just think eventually the federal government's going to put it in-house, because they don't want the nightmare of it. I just think, like anything, it's out there now. Okay, now let's curb it so it benefits everybody, just not the chosen few.
Yep.
I think that's really important. And now where we're at, the level of a Penn State and the Big Ten and some of these Autonomy 5 programs, they have a lot more say in legislation than ever before. I think some of us leaders, at a place like Penn State, we got to take the forefront of it and get on the same page, and it could benefit everybody in every sport if we do it the right way.
So my last question, real quick, the transfer portal, I have a theory. I think you should be able to use it once.
Yeah.
You made a wrong decision in your college choice. guys going in there 3 or 4 times. It's insane.
Ridiculous.
Now, with that said, but like a guy who plays at Texas A&M with Jimbo Fisher getting fired. Okay, you were already transferred in once. Now you have a new coach. Maybe I would allocate a second transfer. Are you on board with?
Here I'll say this. I've said it publicly. After your freshman year, as long as you're in good academic standing, you get maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm indifferent there. But after your first year, okay, if you want to go, but when you get to halfway through, if you're not on pace to graduate, I mean, I know people are graduating and losing 32, 36, 38 credits.
Yep.
Because the previous school they were at were in these, they weren't in good classes. Yeah. And the number one reason we're here is in athletics is for our guys that experience athletics but get a college degree. And look, we had one guy that transferred here from one of the schools, and he lost 18 credits. And I explained to him, this summer you're going to have to take 5 classes to be eligible. That's more than a full semester as an athlete. And so but I've heard these war stories. These kids don't even know it until they get there, and their eligibility will be up, and they're 30 to 40 to more credits short, or they can't get in the school of their choice, the department of their choice. That's not why we're here. So those are the rules I would have. I have no problem people transferring. Unfortunately, in our society now, AAU, if you're not happy on a Thursday with your AAU team, you're on another one Saturday, and that could change 6 times in one summer. And if you're good enough, they'll take you. At high schools now, you can go to 3 or 4 different schools and never have to sit out. There's no repercussions. But if they're here for a college education, that should be number one. Is you shouldn't go to a school if you're going to lose this and not be on track to graduate on your timeline.
Yeah, because James talks about it all the time. Is like, he doesn't want to come out and say it, but you literally have to recruit your team every year.
Yes.
Yeah. Every year you got to go recruit those same 85 scholarship guys.
The most important recruits that you have are the ones in your building, no doubt. And then if you lose anyone, you got to go get someone, but you got to re-recruit. But to me, that's as everyday relationships. It can't be transactional. It's got to be transformational. If they know you care about them every day, and you're making sure that their safety, their wellness, and and their well-being is there, hey, then you really work on the sport with them. But you got to make sure that you're have interaction with them every day, that they know you care, because if not, they're rolling.
Beautiful, man.
Thanks,
Love hearing it, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much,
man.
You
Best
bet.
of luck this season. We'll be right back on the Blue White Player Show.
Hey, Penn State fans, it's game time, and Ciocca is hitting the field with 42 dealerships and 25 brands in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. That means more choices and the perfect new or pre-owned vehicle priced to fit your budget. Plus, factory-trained service experts are just minutes away, and you can feel confident you're doing business with a family that treats you like family. We're a proud partner of Penn State Athletics and preferred dealership group of the Penn State Alumni Association. The Ciocca dealerships. Experience the difference.
Old Dominion. No Bad Vibes Tour. Friday, December 1st. Bryce Jordan Center. With special guest Chase Rice and Kylie Morgan. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Old Dominion, live in concert. Brought to you by Messina Touring Group.
It's frustrating when people intervene on you, but they have problems of their own. It's like when someone sends you a text, but the text comes from their email address. I hate this. Your name at iCloud, they FaceTime you from their email address? Are you calling on a child's iPad?
Emmy Award-winning comedian John Mulaney brings his new tour, John Mulaney in Concert, Bryce Jordan Center, December 3rd. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com.
WWE returns to Penn State's Bryce Jordan Center with the WWE Live Holiday Tour. Sunday night, December 10th, you'll see World Heavyweight Champion Seth freakin' Rollins, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhoades.
May the best man win.
WWE Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley, Bobby Lashley, Becky Lynch, and more. Tickets start at $20. They make great holiday gifts. Get yours now at Ticketmaster.
It's Jeff Dunham on his all-new tour, still not canceled.
Yes, I make a living talking to myself, which means some forms of mental illness actually pay off. Is it bad that I unplugged my cousin's life support to charge my phone? Oh, shut the hell up.
Friday, March 22nd, Bryce Jordan Center. Tickets on sale now only at jeffdunham.com. Don't miss him.
Silence! I kill you!
Jeff Dunham on his all-new tour. Still not canceled.
Coast into fall with a new Kia from Lion Country Kia. Right now, get a 24 Kia Seltos for 5.25% APR for up to 48 months. A new Sportage plug-in hybrid at 0.9% APR. Check out our 23 Sorento hybrid for as low as 4.5% APR. And don't forget, all 2023 and 2024 Kias come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty. Stop in and meet with one of our sales experts today and coast into fall at Lion Country Kia. We want to see you in a Kia.
You still look pretty. Hey, welcome back to the Blue White Players Show, sponsored by the Ciocca dealerships. It's me, Goon and Aeneas, and a good friend of ours, Pat Flannery, right here from the Penn State basketball program. I'm trying to think now. Craig was graduating high school in '85, so you were coming around my house in '84. So
sure was.
I was 6'6", 12-year-old. So it's just great to hear your name and see you. I was so happy. I actually followed Rhoades' career because of you, watching him and watching you going down at Leb and winning the national title. And I lived in Richmond, and he was at a rival school to the coach where I had coached type of thing. So run a little parallel, and just to see you back in the program and back in the state college. Well, finally in the state college area.
Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you said and the respect I have for the Conlins. He was definitely one that got away, but I can remember a home visit in the house and the hospitality, and there was always a lot of food around, I guarantee you.
There you go.
But
you came to my tailgate Saturday, you thought I were back at my house.
Well, I knew my role up here on Saturday. I didn't know it until I got here when I was walking around with Coach Rhoades, and we got to the Conlins tailgate, and there was 3 pieces of pork, and they all went to Coach Rhoades, and he shared one of those pieces with me, and he threw me a little crumb. And then I saw the big boy here go and sit down and get his first little taste, and he looked pretty comfortable over there. But that was good stuff. If I get the Yingling and you get the pork roll, we could go on tour.
There we go.
That's a tour that
trying
might be
for years, baby. So, Coach, what did Coach Rhoades bring you in here for? That's what we're going to have you on talking about right now, because it's interesting to us, and we want to support as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, well, quite honestly, my wife and I living down in the Hershey area. We retired from up at school, but been active in a lot of different things, including consulting and basketball. So it's never gone away. This was the first time that somebody's really said, "Come with us." That I had to kind of respect the timing, the place. And, what I think the world of this guy, and I think the best thing I can say to you, he was my player, and the greatest respect you guys have too is to call someone coach. Yeah, and it's just so easy to call him coach. I mean, I know everybody looks at me and says Mike, because he played for me, but that's how much respect I have for him. And that will be something that it was easy to run up here when he asked and started talking about it. And I think at first I wasn't sure if he was really serious about it. Would you want a guy up there? And as we talked about it, the things he wanted to do and the trust and the relationship and all. So he has an incredible staff, people around him. And I hope I can add value to everything that's in his program. And he knows I'll work my tail off for him and do everything I can. So it's a real special place. I'm not a Penn State guy. I'm that little school down the road that used to look up here and see the big boys. But the respect has always been there. So to be a part of this is just fantastic. And my family's very supportive of it because of the Rhoades.
Having had been around Coach Rhoades for so long, excuse me, where have you seen him grow the most? What areas have you seen him grow up, having, been around?
He's not here.
Just a young guy.
You, so.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
He already left the room.
I think I drove out here with him. So it would take a little while if I really thought hard about the different things. But the one thing I'll say is, coaches X and O, and they get a style and they play. And the thing that I hope my son who coaches would do the same thing is, I feel like Coach took something from every place that he's been, because he doesn't play the way he played or the way we played or the way Ciocca played, or he plays the way he wants to play. And that comes with getting stuff from everybody and learning. And I know he went to a lot of clinics and he had people around his program. And the really, really good coaches that I know, that's what they've done with their programs. They've learned. The other part to him is just the level. I remember he was a kid when he was there, and over the years we've had discussions. And I think that he has a perspective on his family and about what this program is. I know people will look at it. I remember people busting me about, Rhoades, he got a contract. He's a Monterey City kid and all. And he's going up there to Penn State. And you know what? That was the farthest thing that I thought of. I thought about Penn State and what continuity and what having somebody that understands your culture. And I thought a lot about his father and about his family, because they'll have busloads coming up here because that's the kind of people they are.
They are.
So
and there's no doubt. That's the people they are. You're right.
Yeah. And I thought a lot about that and thought, man, will that be fun? And we'll do everything we can to be good. And then the other thing I know you were asking about the NIL.
Yep.
And, I really feel that this is something that probably if your mom and pop were there, they would say the same thing. What are we doing paying these kids, going to school? A scholarship is enough.
Yeah.
They get their books, they get a per diem. But, that's where we are right now. And that's what we did. And you can either throw up your hands and say, we're not going to do this. And you can be a program, or you can say, we're going to do it the right way. So I wouldn't be here if I didn't know this guy's going to recruit the right kind of kids that fit the value of Penn State, and they're going to be good. Those ratings, the 1-star, 3, 5, we could all give examples of 3s that turned out to be 5s and 5s that turned out to be 0s.
Yeah.
And that's just a ranking you do. It depends on what you do with them when you get them here. And I think the teaching he does with his staff, I think the culture of the people that care about these kids here, I think that's going to pay incredible dividends, and then work your tail off and see how good you can get. And that's a really rewarding. So the NIL will definitely be part of it. We have to do certain things to be able to at least not lose kids because of something.
Absolutely.
But that's not, I guarantee you that's not going to be the driving force, or I know Coach would have never asked me to come up with them.
Yeah, I mean, the NIL to me is something that, it was definitely needed, because there's definitely guys out there who deserve it. And being Aeneas and I played at the higher Division I level, when that schools are making hundreds of millions of dollars on TV, and then the revenue from the school, and you're getting, listen, I am the biggest fan of, I had my education paid for, I had all this and that, but there's always that little, having to borrow $100 from my dad, knowing my dad, it was $100 was $100. I mean, that was a good bunch of money, and it was just that was going on. It's the right thing to do if it's done properly and respected and understood by everybody. And if everybody plays by the rules, which is what you have to worry about, obviously, with the NIL or without the NIL, there's always been that issue.
Well, it could help in some, because it used to be money under the table.
Absolutely.
Now it's on top of the table, and everybody's going to see it. The one thing that I wish people would understand, and that folks that have been in the business a long time, is I just don't like administrators and governors and people that are out there not at the end of every sentence saying that these kids are getting their education.
Right.
There's kids there that are, there's kids that are, a coach and I were Division III guys, and I didn't give them a cent. His mom and pop kind of footed the bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
So value that education.
Yep.
I mean, I get what you said about the money that's involved, but I've heard people in powerful positions, after you said, I'm for the NIL, you got your vote, people love you, you said the NIL, just say to everybody, and they got an education.
No doubt
they
about
got
it.
an education. Yep. And I think that sometimes is a throwaway, and it shouldn't be.
I have said for a long time, my wife's going to be like, no, all right, here we go again, the same NIL bill. And that is that you are in good standing academically. Mm-hmm. You should be given like a $12,000, $15,000 annuity every year that you play your sport, compete in your sport, graduate, compete to go to the next level. So you go from freshman to sophomore year, there's a $15,000 check for you. But when you graduate from Penn State, when you do finally fulfill your obligation to Penn State, and that is they paid for your education, you get your education, you graduate, there's $100,000, $150,000. How many people can come out of college to say that?
Ooh.
And then we always hear the damn stories of, so and so is getting paid $8 million. It's like 10 people.
Yeah,
it's the other kids that you're worried about that are getting they're just happy getting $1,000, $1,500 a month in this, and that's what it's all about.
I'll tell you what, I'd be happy to go tell your wife how smart a guy you are. I mean, I think that makes a whole lot of sense.
She don't listen to me, so why the hell she listen to you?
Come on.
I've been trying for a year now. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. I will say, though, you talk about NIL and Penn State doing it the right way, and more specifically, Penn State basketball. We've mentioned Miles Dredd now 2 times. He is a perfect example of NIL when it's done the right way, benefiting guys in ways outside of just fiscally immediately. He was the guy who told me when we were working with him on his NIL that he wanted to be a broadcaster. So we were able to get in contact with the Big Ten Network. Big Ten Network paid for Miles Dredd to fly out there. He learned how to be a broadcaster. Now you cut on any Penn State basketball game, and Miles Dredd is talking about sports and getting paid to do it. So there are different ways that you can educate guys and equip them for long-term success without just throwing $100,000 at them. I think Penn State basketball has done that at a high level, and hopefully we'll continue to do so.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear.
Love it, buddy.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you
very much.
So we're going to go to the Letterman minute, the Atlas Letterman minute here. We got some Blair Thomas action right now. So
the great Blair Thomas.
Wonderful Blair Thomas, Philadelphia's own. We'll get done that, and we're going to get ready for Rutgers. So I just want to say this, get on my soapbox a little bit. Show up for these guys. Show up for this team. It's senior day. You may be frustrated with the team right now in the program, but you got to come out and support them this weekend. So there's nothing worse than a senior running out to a field with 50,000 people in there and 70,000 empty seats. So get there, get early, get there, be early, be loud, and be proud. So we are, baby.
We are.
Blair Thomas, played at Penn State 1985 through 89. I grew up in Philadelphia. Actually, when I was in 10th grade, I participated in one of the summer football camps, and I kind of got familiar with the coaches. I performed well at those camps as well. Coaches started wanting to show me around a little bit because it was a little different back then. They didn't have the technology going that they have now, where they know every kid, from 8th grade on. They really had to search and find, these players. So I came up to the football camp and really enjoyed myself and had a good time, at the camps. Wow, so many great players that we had on that national championship team. Shane Collin has to be, one of the top guys. He's one of the guys that I hate going against one-on-one and blitz pickup, but I knew if I was going to have any type of opportunity to play afterwards that I had to find a way to step up, and do things against, Shane. We had Trey Bauer there, Donnie Graham. There's so many guys that, did extremely well as players here. DJ Dozier, I learned a lot from him because I was one of those guys that emulated different running backs growing up, different styles. So, to try to incorporate different styles and, some plays you got to be patient, some people you got to hit hard. So, you got to develop that rhythm. And I learned a lot from, DJ from that. Well, I have a lot of those coming out of Penn State because we won a national championship, my sophomore year. And being a player that participated throughout that season and contributed, that was a high moment. Getting drafted number 2 overall to the NFL is another, unbelievable moment. So, and prior to that, being an MVP at a Senior Bowl, MVP at a, Holiday Bowl, all those things were great experience and moments, coming out of Penn State. But, it comes at a time when, a teammate of ours just passed away, Gary Brown, who had a unbelievable game. That was the year that, Joe and them asked him to move to defense, and he played defense just as well as he played offense, and he contributed big time in that game, stripping Ty Detner and running it back for a touchdown. And then the finish was just unbelievable when I'm throwing both hands up in the air and just walking through the end zone. It's just, just amazing. Oh, I have to do it on myself. My freshman year, I got a chance to play early And in the first game, we was playing Maryland at Maryland. It was blistering hot. Joe said during the week we're gonna play a lot of players, so everybody, all hands on deck, get ready to play. So me as a true freshman, not knowing if I was gonna get in there or not, got the opportunity to get into the game. We jumped up on them early, so I'll preface saying the first fumble wasn't my fault. Okay. So that next week in practice, Joe always do his calisthenics, in the back of the defense, usually all the way in the back. And then we started, before that, we had like a little pre-practice going on. And pre-practice is harder than practice. But so I got a handoff and I fumbled the ball again. And he came out of nowhere. Nuts, Thomas! You fumbled that ball again and you would never play here. I'm like thinking to myself, never play here. Like, I just got here. Like, I don't even think school started yet because that's when we came in early. And it was like, never? I called my high school coach, Mr. Angelo. I don't know if this is going to work out. This man talking about I may never play here. So that was, I have to get one on myself. There you go.
It worked.
So he was right.
You did that at 15. But
Okay.
who's looking at football for a vehicle to pay for an education? I told him, you guys are going to college.